Welcome to Language is Your Superpower, where we explore topics related to language use in today's world and showcase subject matter experts who offer helpful insight on the impact of language proficiency in the workplace, marketplace, and community. This episode is brought to you by Language Testing International. Hello, I'm Lisa March, Marketing Director here for Language Testing International, and with me today is Nicole Lembo. Nicole is the Manager of Academic Programs working closely with talent management at JetBlue. Nicole, we're so delighted to have you and learn more about JetBlue's Global Scholar Program. Welcome.
Thank you so much. I'm very excited to be here as well.
Nicole, we are so impressed with what you're doing at JetBlue, and we would really like to talk a little bit about your program there and how you're supporting skills-based certificates to your employees. I mean, I see that as an incredible benefit. You've been partnering with LTI for a few years now. And if you could talk to us a little bit about your role and how that program works.
Sure, absolutely. So the JetBlue Scholars program started in what we called beta in the back half of 2015. And we started out with about 150 people, just beta testing courses, all of which the goal was essentially to unbundle higher education. So to figure out a way to do something besides tuition reimbursement. We knew that the tuition reimbursement in its traditional form was not a fit for JetBlue based on budgets and population, mostly, right? There's a few other reasons it wouldn't work too. So instead, our founder, what she did was she had done a bunch of research for her husband, actually, who had been a firefighter and had since retired. And their daughter was approaching college age. And he said, when she asked me on her application where I went to school, I want to have an answer. So our founder started doing all this research of, what can he do with this work experience and some of the community college that he had. And she figured out that if she put it all together, he was actually only a few credits shy of a degree. And so that was kind of the twinkle in her eye for the JetBlue Scholars program. And that was our original goal, was to help our crew members. JetBlue has over 20,000 crew members. Tons of them have some college, but no degree, just like many, many adults in the United States. And we knew that we needed to come up with something that was not only going to remove the cost barrier, but also find something flexible, find something that makes use of knowledge that these working adults already have, and also that provides the appropriate level of support. So that's how JetBlue Scholars was born. We make use of alternative credit. So a couple of our big partners are study.com and sophia.org. They provide asynchronous courses for us. So, if someone's working the overnight shift in the hangar, and maybe they're on a break, they can just log in and do some lessons right then. They don't have to log in Monday, Wednesday, Friday at noon to have a group discussion, right? So it's completely on their own time. We give them a start date and an end date, and however they want to build it into their life between those two dates is entirely up to them. The cost is almost entirely covered by JetBlue. The out-of-pocket maximum at current rates for participating crew members is $6,400. So for a full bachelor's degree, you can come to us with next to nothing. We have had some of our training reviewed for college credit. So our technical operations crew members, our flight crew members, so the folks flying the planes, they're pretty important. What they do is really hard, and it may not have been in a traditional college setting that they learned it, but it is absolutely college level learning. And so we wanted to make sure that their licenses and the training that they receive in addition to those licenses at JetBlue can count towards their education. And because of that, that's actually how we landed with Language Testing International as well. So it's, Lisa, you and I have talked before about how when someone truly is an expert level speaker of a language, that depth of knowledge is pretty exceptional. So it's, the idea that our crew members who already speak another language can take tests through LTI, get those certifications, and those certifications are great to add to their resume. That's wonderful. But even more exciting for us is that we can also send them over to our partner universities And not only is it a resume ad, but it can get them significantly further along in their bachelor's degree. So it's pretty great. And of course, we have a wonderful coaching team that's absolutely the secret sauce. Having that human connection is really critical. And, even being able to explain how to prepare for an LTI exam is huge. There's not much preparation, so that's pretty exciting too. But that's mostly it. We really just try to use flexible, high quality coursework that we can get for a good rate so that we can cover it and offer this to more and more people. We just had another application window. We weren't able to do it last year because of COVID. But we had, before this, we had about 700 people enrolled, and we just accepted another 266. So it'll be the highest enrollment we've ever had, close to 1,000. And it's very exciting for us to be able to support that many crew members in their educational goals. That was probably more than you bargained for on that question.
No, that it really does tell your story and the great work that you're doing to advance skills, careers, give credit for prior learning. And certainly, like you mentioned, speaking another language is a skill you build over time and often not recognized even by the person who is the speaker. So to think that you've got this skill that you now could showcase, whether it be to get your next new job or on your personal profile, and you really could just show up, right? And take an assessment and not prepare is really was a huge advantage to me. So could you tell me a little bit about the nature of the jobs for which you offer language testing, or is it anybody who wants to opt in because they've learned the benefits from the awareness that you provide around these programs at JetBlue?
Right. Yeah, so we offer a couple of different ways to make use of the testing. Oftentimes, through the JetBlue Scholars program, we're not really seeing crew members as they're interviewing or being selected for roles before they're part of JetBlue. We're really, once you are in JetBlue, that's when we get eyes on you, so to speak. So a lot of folks have already been hired into the roles because of their language. So for example, if, we're adding flights between JFK and the Dominican Republic, they're going to be looking for an in-flight crew that speaks language of destination, in that case, Spanish. Folks on the phones, oftentimes they will select for someone who's bilingual, and they will have someone converse with a Spanish-speaking person as opposed to using a certification. But once they're in JetBlue, it's exciting because we're like, hey, you already do this. Exactly to your point, Lisa. You grew up speaking both Spanish and English, as an example, and you don't understand what a huge deal it is that you can speak, read, write, hear, think in more than one language. It's astounding, really. So we definitely we've had people qualify for our program because we do have a certain level of credits that you need to have before you become part of the JetBlue Scholars program. We've had people qualify using language testing, which is really exciting. And then, of course, we've had people change degrees because they're like, oh, well, I can fit my language in this degree rather than this other one. So they've changed majors, and apologies, that's my toddler in the background. But, we've had folks change majors because they're like, oh, I don't have to start over and take, 16 different psychology courses. I can just make use of this knowledge that I already have. And I think what's really exciting, anecdotally, is that when someone gets these advanced high or superior level scores back on every single type of test, I think it's a huge confidence booster. It's like, oh, look at me. I just got, a third of the way through my bachelor's degree for something that I could do in my sleep. It's so exciting. I think it really helps those who take it and are successful in it. It helps that they're like, actually, look at this. My language skills are really, really worth something. and it's not just me speaking at home, it's me being able to speak at work and have that, and like have that be useful, have me be promoted into another position, or maybe I get to fly a route that I didn't know that I was even really qualified for previously, right? We've definitely had internal crew members, when they're looking to switch roles, take their LTI certifications and add them to their resumes as evidence of bilingual capability. In some cases, trilingual. I mean, is there a word for 4 languages? I'm not sure what that is, but we do have a crew member who has tested in, she's fluent in 4 different languages. And it's, it's how she earned her degree. It's how she got promoted. It's pretty impressive. It's for the ability for someone's brain to work in multiple languages is really, really spectacular.
That is amazing. We want to do a Humans of New York type story for LTI testers. So that'll be our next podcast episode. We'll have to showcase some of those great stories that you have, because it really is a superpower. And to
Absolutely.
your point, it's not necessarily, it's fairly, LTI has been around for 25 years and it's the leading provider of language assessments, but really we spread the word through stories and success. And so I would love to meet some of your global scholars and understand how they've leveraged their language to do their job better, to advance their careers, and like you said, to really just be proud of both their heritage and their skill. I have a question for you. We recently have rolled out digital badging with our partner Credly. How interesting would it be for us to be able to give digital badges to all the folks who reach a certain level of language ability through digital badges? Do you do that currently with any of the programs that you're administering today?
So we don't today. Most of our program offerings, whether it's course2study.com or language exam through LTI, we make use of them for the purpose of earning college credit, which the badge being awarded through Credly is still critical to that process. We certainly could not do it without that. But we haven't done internal badging just yet. I think it is really lovely to be able to have something like that on your LinkedIn, or, similar to having the, certified by Language Testing International superior in French, right? Mm-hmm. I think there's great value to that, and it's very universal. I think where we end up going with badges sometimes is that, somebody who has successfully achieved one of these badges might be kind of, walking around with it or telling their manager that they got it, and there's no meaning to it with the manager. So I think we would need to do that work first, in terms of making sure that everyone's on the same page, that this is what this badge is, this is what it represents. It's not easy to earn it, unless you really do have that level of language. And I think that there's absolutely opportunity for that.
That's great. Yeah, digital badging it's fairly new, but I think it's what you said. We've got to raise the awareness, even globally, right? Just in the employment arena in general. What is digital badging? What is ACE credit, right? So maybe could you talk to us a little bit about ACE and what it really means to be able to earn credits through language testing? And you spoke a little bit about you can get a third the way through your degree with college credits, but maybe could you expand a little more on who is ACE and why that matters to you?
Sure, absolutely. So ACE is the American Council on Education, and they are an enormous organization. Actually, a very small part of what they do happens to be the reviews of non-college courses for college credit. So, for example, we created some courses in-house that we had reviewed by ACE to say, is this college level? And if it is, how many hours of college credit is it worth, right? So we might have a really great training that we put together, and they might say, yes, it is college level, but it's not at the depth of a full college course. So it might be 1 college credit versus 3. And a standard, in a semester system anyway, a standard course is worth 3 credits. So that's where we really found an enormous benefit in LTI is that LTI has been reviewed and approved for college level credit by the American Council on Education, which is really exciting. So they really are the authority in saying, there is one other organization that does it, but I would say ACE is absolutely an authority in the space of, yes, this is college level, or no, it's not. And authority being really important because it's that authority that helps other colleges and universities say, yes, we will accept this, or no, we will not. So there's a really, really critical credibility component there with ACE, that they're a very trusted organization, thankfully. And they have said, yes, absolutely, the LTI language exams are worth college credit. And I think the even more beautiful thing is if somebody comes in at intermediate level, let's say, like maybe they went through 4 years of a language in high school, they're able to be somewhat conversational, but probably not at a business level, or a fluency level that wouldn't be considered advanced or exceptional. They could still get credit for it, but just not as much. Someone who is a native speaker or who is an expert level speaker in another language can get 9 to 12 credits for a couple of the different LTI exams. So, for example, the oral one where they just have the conversation with the computer, if they score advanced high to superior on that, they're getting 12 credits for one test, whereas a normal semester, a single course is worth 3, right? So to put that in perspective a little bit, that's for time invested versus the outcome, that cost benefit is hugely weighed on the benefit side. A couple of the other ones are maybe worth 6 credits. There might be another that's worth 9. Again, all if you're scoring really high, which our native and expert speakers typically do. So when you take the reading, the writing, the listening, and the speaking and put all of those credits together, someone can earn anywhere from 25 to 35 college credits. And a typical bachelor's degree is made up of 120. So, that's a really significant jump to be done, particularly, with it's not taking you 14 to 16 weeks to take these language courses to earn that credit. It's taking you an hour or two having a conversation with a computer, right? So I think that's the beauty of LTI and the combination with ACE is that LTI was able to bring this to the American Council on Education and say, look, it might not require a lot of preparation, but what we do can really get to the heart of whether or not someone truly understands this language or if they do not. And that is what enabled ACE to say, yes, absolutely, this is worth college credit. So it's huge for us. Our asynchronous course providers too they've all had their courses approved through ACE as well. So, again, absolutely really key components to all of this is that ACE approval. And we are incredibly grateful that LTI, I believe just the end of 2019, Lisa, you can correct me if I'm wrong. I think it was at the end of 2019, just got re-upped because, of course, in order to maintain credibility, it has to be re-reviewed ever so often. And LTI just had the re-review completed and was approved for another 5 years, which is phenomenal.
Exactly. No, agreed. And wondering, what were some of the criteria that you considered when picking your language testing partner? It sounds like ACE was certainly a slam dunk, and agree, it's incredibly valuable to the student to be able to amass these credits through assessments that they can get easily administered through a partner like LTI. But also wondering, what other factors did you consider?
Absolutely.
When you picked
so, I think one of the main factors that went into selecting LTI as the primary language provider is the ability to have our students test at home. We did look into a couple of other options, and they all required on-site testing. Which included not only kind of a lengthy registration process, but also locating a testing center. And we're all over the place. We fly to over 100 destinations. I think we might be up to like 115 now. We're in multiple countries. And so for our team, not having to do the legwork of finding the testing center for our scholars and just saying, hey, do this when you're ready at home. That was huge for us in terms of not just efficiency for the team, but also, of course, convenience for the learner, the person who's actually going to take the test. And we liked that there was the ability to split up the test, right? So we've got a lot of native speakers who, despite their astonishing ability to speak and think in more than one language, they're not always that confident going in. So I think it's really nice for us to be able to say, well, why don't you try the speaking one first? Or why don't you try, if you feel like you're strongest in writing, why don't you give that one a try first? We'll see how it goes. And then we'll decide if it's appropriate for you to take the remaining assessments. And so typically once they get started, they're immediately like, let's go for the rest, which is wonderful. It's a nice confidence booster as well. So absolutely the ability to split up the exams, the online capability is really, really big. And I think also the fact that you don't have to prepare, you just get to have a conversation or you just get to listen in and answer a few questions. It's not, I think if you can do, I went through 4 years of Spanish in high school, and I know that I don't think I could even get intermediate on an LCI exam. And it's, I think it's use it or lose it, of course, and a lot of our native speakers are continuously speaking. But I do think that oftentimes they believe that if they didn't take it in school, that they don't have a school level understanding. And it's often the opposite. It's those of us who did take it in school and then didn't work on it, right? We didn't continue speaking it. We're the ones who lose it. So it's, not really setting it apart as, this isn't what you needed to study flashcards for. This isn't you conjugating verbs. This is just you speaking in the natural way that you speak and getting credit for it. So I think those are probably the biggest factors. And I think once we started putting folks through them and seeing how successful they were being, we didn't know. We're like, we'll put a few native speakers through and just see how it goes. But when they had a really good testing experience and the results come in a timely fashion, which is huge for us, it's easy to get all the documentation over to our partner universities, which is another thing that's really important for our team to make sure that our students can get the credit in a timely fashion once they've earned it. That's all huge. But, when we started seeing somebody coming back as advanced higher superior and earning 30 credits, we were like, there's nothing else out there that can deliver this type of outcome for someone at this level. We've tried a couple of other things and we might get, for somebody advanced, we might get 9 credits. But that doesn't hold a candle to someone who could potentially earn 30 with that same level of understanding. So there's not a whole lot we don't like about the LCI.
That's great. We're obviously, that makes us really super happy. And
good.
With the couple of minutes that we have left, I would love to know, really, this has got to be a competitive advantage for you in recruiting employees. And so tell us a little bit about the excitement and the buzz that this must create when you are in the recruiting process with an individual. How do you leverage all the work that you're doing to not just provide a great opportunity for employment, but just this enrichment and continual growth in both their professional and educational career? That has to be a huge differentiator for you and JetBlue.
Absolutely. And that's a huge part of the reason that, what we do doesn't have anything to do with flying planes, right? We're not generating revenue for JetBlue, which means that we have to have a lot of other outcomes. And thankfully we do. And I think that from a recruiting perspective, in terms of people external to JetBlue that are interested in coming to JetBlue, or, when we're fighting for talent, saying that we are able to offer education as a benefit is a huge part of the value proposition when it comes to recruitment. Of course, so are flight benefits. But I think if you are going to be an employer of choice in today's economy, particularly in today's labor market where everybody is fighting for talent. As we're coming out of COVID, it's you have to offer more than a paycheck, right? And I think, thankfully, JetBlue has been progressive in that way and allowed us to get started on this before this labor market boom. And I think, what's really interesting is it has spread word of mouth more than anything, which is exciting. So like I said, we started off with 150, 200 people, and now we're up to almost 1,000. We've had hundreds of people graduate. We've had, double digits of people who have either transferred or promoted. So, our outcomes are we see that folks who participate in our program tend to be more engaged with the company, tend to be more loyal to JetBlue, tend to stay longer. And we do not have a retention clause on the end. So someone can earn their degree and they can quit the next day if they would like to. But we find that they don't do that. When you create an environment of learning and you create I don't want to call it an area. It's because it's more than an area. It's a culture of investment in our crew members, right? And so even going through COVID, there was, I think a lot of senior leadership teams would have said, we have to shut down this program, right? Like airlines we're almost grounded, right? We're like nearly grounded, no revenue coming in. And the senior leadership at JetBlue said, we will find the money elsewhere because this investment in our crew members is representative of who we are. And we cannot take that away simply because we're going through a rough time. So I think that is a testament to JetBlue and the culture at JetBlue. Absolutely. But it's also, because it's a successful program and because we do offer so much support and so many different choices. And, if someone wants to get through quickly, that's what we'll help them do. If someone really wants to learn everything there is to learn about psychology, we're going to help them do that, whether it takes them, 6 months or 5 years. That's whatever. We meet you where you are once you join the program. And I think that really goes a long way. Those first folks that graduated went out and told their colleagues. And now we're at a point where, we have to be careful how often we open the application window. And we have to be careful about how many people we can accept before our coaches get overwhelmed. And it starts hurting the student experience, right? So I would say it's huge. And we've certainly seen an uptick in some of our stations where other languages are prevalent. And it's huge, so we've a ton of crew members in Puerto Rico, plenty of crew members in Dominican Republic. We've got crew members in Haiti where multiple languages are spoken. And we're definitely seeing some of those crew members make their way to us as soon as they meet our eligibility requirements and say, hey, I heard that because I speak a language, I can get credit. How does that work? And so it definitely, when you provide a strong experience and you make things simple so that people can just learn and can just earn credit and they don't have to worry about any other red tape. Our team really does our best to handle all of that. We would be lost without it. I think, we would have been shut down several years ago if it wasn't for people having good experiences and telling their friends about it. And the LTI offering is one of many ways that we strive to improve the learner's experience, right? It's like if you're in our program because you really want to apply to that supervisor role at your station, you're not interested in learning everything there is to learn about psychology, right? You're like, get me this degree and get it to me now. I need it on my resume so that I can check this box so I can apply to this job and I can further my career at JetBlue. So, it's pretty phenomenal, like all the way around the way that it has kind of spread like wildfire.
I totally agree. And listen, I used to like JetBlue. Now I love JetBlue. I mean, really.
We love hearing that.
Yeah. I mean, how you treat your employees and the opportunities you provide and the culture you build, it all matters. I mean, I could speak to you for another hour, but I know that we're coming up on the 25 to 30 minutes, and I certainly we should discuss a series because I think there is so much more that we could impart to help other companies, model what you're doing. Maybe obviously what you've done has come over, 7 years of work, if not more. But I do have one final question for you, and that is, what advice would you have for companies that are debating implementing a language testing program? And certainly what you're doing at JetBlue is really special around academic programs, but just straight up language skills to be able to do the job at hand. We see so many companies wonder whether just taking the person to the office next door and having them have a quick conversation to assess proficiency is a whole lot less expensive in their mind, right?
Sure.
What are the implications of not using a partner like LTI for your language testing needs?
Well, I think it's probably a lot of missed opportunity. Because it's having a quick conversation with someone, you don't know if they can write it. I've done that. I have hired someone who I believed was fully bilingual, and it turned out they weren't. They could have great conversations, but they were absolutely not comfortable writing emails in their language. And I think that it can tell you a lot. I think also from a recruiting perspective, especially if you're a large company, there's so much liability involved in fair hiring, right? And this is really a great way to take some of that unconscious bias out of the program, right? So if you've got somebody they happen to go next door, talk to this one other person who also speaks Creole, let's say, that one person is the only decider, and we don't know what else is influencing that decision. Using LTI gives you a cut and dry, here's a score. There's no potentially biased third party involved, right? It just, here it is, it's in black and white. So I think that's a huge part of it. And I'd say it's absolutely worth the investment, especially if it's a way in your company that people can move into other jobs and potentially move up. That does speak to a culture of investment in development. And cultures who invest in development have higher retention. So it may seem like a small thing to do, but it can have this ripple effect down the line. So I would say it's crazy to not do it.
Really, I think all of the points that you mentioned are ones that we try to convey, but hearing it from someone who's lived it makes all the difference in the world. So thank you. And we absolutely will be scheduling time to hear more stories. And while JetBlue does some amazing things, it really are the people who execute on the vision and the ideas. And I am sure that these programs wouldn't be as successful without someone like you heading them up and shepherding them to success. So congratulations.
Well, we have a truly spectacular team that deeply, deeply cares about the success of our crew members. And, all I had to do was put them in place and get out of the way. So don't give me too much credit.
Well, we'll definitely, we'd love to give you a shout out and love to know who it is that you work so closely with, to let them know how much we appreciate all that you do, the support, and also you in making the decision to partner with us on your language testing needs. So Nicole, thank you again. I hope you enjoy the rest of your day, and we will be back in touch very soon.
Okay, sounds great. Thanks so much again for having me. This was great, Lisa.
We hope you enjoyed this episode of Language is Your Superpower. If you have any questions or need immediate information regarding how to assess your personal level of language proficiency or the skills of your employees, visit our website at www.languagetesting.com. Thanks so much for joining us.